All right, the Texas Giant remains closed today as investigators look into the death of Rosie Esparza. As you may have heard, the 52-year-old was killed Friday when she fell from the roller coaster. Six Flags and the German manufacturer of the ride will investigate the incident themselves, but joining us tonight is attorney Doug Uloth, and he's here to offer some insight on who could be at fault in this accident and what legal challenges Six Flags could face as a result. So, Doug, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, so we all heard, of course, the tragic incident, and she evidently was visiting Six Flags for the first time, on the roller coaster for the first time, and had some concerns, evidently, according to eyewitnesses, even before the ride took off.
What I've heard from eyewitnesses is that there are concerns about whether the locking mechanism properly engaged.
Yeah.
She apparently raised some issues about not hearing the audible clicks that often accompany the lowering of the bar. There's a T-bar that locks people in. And so she apparently raised some concerns about that and kind of was either dismissed or they went ahead with the ride, and then the incident happened shortly thereafter, almost immediately.
Well, the Germans now have a team in looking at this, and so far they're saying that they can't see any problem at all with the locking mechanism.
That was what I had heard, is that they originally reacted as indicating that that wasn't even possible from their perspective about how it's engineered. I think the investigation that they're undertaking now is, from their perspective, following up, is indicating that everything functioned as it should have. So that does, yet there'll have to be some further discussion with eyewitnesses to find out how to attribute this, because what happened is going to dictate what happens next.
Right.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, don't even play one on TV, but how could it be anybody's fault except Six Flags? Because it seems to me either the mechanism failed or it wasn't attached properly because the lady didn't open it up, right? Now, is there something on the back of the ticket that you buy that says, by the way, if you die, we're not liable?
Essentially, that's probably what is on the back of the ticket, but it's not worded that way.
Exactly.
But you've kind of raised 3 or 4 different issues.
Yes.
So the first one on the ticket issue is that generally is not going to be, I think, enforceable, in my opinion, on this type of situation. Usually what you have is it's an effort to contractually waive your liability, and the question that comes up is whether anyone has actually looked at that, understood it, what is the nature of the activity they're engaging in, and whether that's the sort of thing that would, apply to that activity. Even if you did say that it worked, if it turns out something was wrong, you're not waiving a defective product to throw you out of the roller coaster. So I don't think that really is going to get anybody anywhere at Six Flags. The question about liability is who else but Six Flags, probably based on the way that evidence indicates. I think that any lawsuit that gets filed is obviously going to target Six Flags primarily. And the issues will probably be a question of maintenance of the machine, whether it's properly maintained according to the schedule the company that made it put out, training of the people operating it. Often the rider, the machine operators at Six Flags are 18-year-olds or college students home. They may not have the proper level of training, so that'll be a focus.
Well, that was one of the things that I was thinking about, too, because I think the first thing that Six Flags would want to do would be to call their people in and say, okay, we're going to have to revisit some of the points that we tried to make when we first hired you here. So I suspect that maybe we'll see some retraining.
I would expect that won't have any impact on what liability issues may arise for what happened already, but that would be a logical thing to do.
And I've heard a lot of people talking over the weekend just in dismay that there is no regulatory agency that oversees amusement parks and rides, like, at least in this state. There's nobody that can step in as an objective outsider and say, okay, were the protocols followed? Was this a safe ride?
No, there is some limited inspection of is it operating correctly now once a year from the Texas Department of Insurance.
Okay.
But on a national level, there's no oversight of fixed amusement park rides. The Consumer Safety Board, Consumer Product Safety Board, oversees moving places like you'll see set up temporarily in a parking lot. But when the law came up, there was a lobbying effort, and it kept it out of the rides that are fixed, like a Six Flags or SeaWorld or those type of places, prevented that legislation from going into effect. Now, obviously, it's in their interest to try to maintain the equipment so people keep coming. And I think that was the argument that they made when the legislation was being considered, but at present, it's not there.
Now, this isn't the first person to die on one of these rides at Six Flags. Do you have any information on the past one and what happened in terms of any legal matters there?
Well, any prior instances at Six Flags, I actually don't recall that instance, but the statistical evidence is that your 1 in 25 million visits will result in a serious injury, and that there's a 1 in 720 million of being killed. So they're low statistics. Swimming in your pool, driving down the street are more likely to cause a problem. But when it happens, it's likely to be a catastrophic.
Which is fine until you're that person.
Until you're that person.
And going back to one of the first things you said, the fact that eyewitnesses heard this woman having concerns that the thing wasn't locked. Oh my goodness. I'm seeing those people beat in court.
I think that's correct. They'll be first witnesses that anybody talks to.
But there's almost no doubt that there will be lawsuits, that they're already pending, most likely.
I think that that's pretty much a given. I mean, in fact, there's probably quite a line to try to talk to that woman's family. And
oh, yeah. I mean, well, let's face it. If it had been my family, I'd sure as hell get out there and see.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's what we do.
Okay. Well, Doug, thank you. Doug Uloff, thank you for coming in tonight and telling us a little bit more about what happened over the weekend and what we can expect.
thank you for having me.
Thank you, Doug, very much.